Cheers. This is a D1822 is the Alden model number, if you track those. It's an interesting website, by the way, called Alden Model Project, I should say. And if you put in if you know the model number, you can put it in and search it, and it will basically show you sales on eBay and some information about the shoes, past sales, etc. You can actually see this pair that I picked up here. It says I paid $350, but I think with eBay they don't show when you do best offers. So I think I paid slightly less than that. No, okay, so I did pay $350 plus shipping and tax. These new are from, it's called the Brogue shop or something. I don't know if this will be too visible there, but down on the bottom of the shoe, they kind of put the stockist name. I don't think that even showed up in the camera. It says Brogue. Yeah, so if I look at the BrogueShop.com, their website, they call this the Alden X Brogue Boondocker boot. And, new, it's a $730 boot, so it ain't cheap. The big reason I wanted this is that 379X last, and I kind of threw out that story about it. They also call it the military last, I've seen some places, and it's something I've been curious about. You don't see it come up much. It's not ubiquitous like a True Balance and the Barry, I feel like might be their most common boot last, and then the True Balance is right there. True Balance is very popular because of the 405, the Indy, but their Barry, most of their dress boots are on the Barry last, and then they have some other last like the modified last and some other stuff, but this one seems to be fairly uncommon, and it's quite a different fit, to be honest. I am surprised at how they fit, because of how my True Balance boots fit in the same 11.5. These are an 11.5D or 11.5 BD because it's a combination last. This last is noticeably smaller, I would say. So I ordered the same size. I actually wear my True Balance, my 405s, with like a boot sock. It's not a super thick boot sock, but it's a boot sock. If I wear them with my typical thin socks, the quarters get like basically touch, and it just looks a little wrong, and it feels like there's a little bit too much volume in them up at the top. And with the boot sock, it solves that. It makes the quarters separate a bit, and then they're still close with the way the pattern is, I guess, of the 405, but it makes it fit better. And then there's enough room in the toe box because the True Balance last is just really nice for the toe, that it still fits just fine. They're super comfortable. With these, there's no way I could even wear those boot socks, to be honest. I'm wearing them with my thin socks, which again I kind of prefer, and these are quite, I guess, lower volume, I guess, is the biggest thing. There's a lot less space, so the heel is very tight. The inner part of the arch here, you really feel it. Actually reminds me kind of the Viberg 2040, where you really kind of feel it hugging your arch. This actually feels like it has more arch support than the True Balance, which is weird because I read it's the other way around. It has a different style sole. So one thing, this is like a black, what do they call it? Cork sole. Let me get some of this stuff back. Fit the whole boot here. So this is a black cork sole, kind of similar to the brown Neo cork sole that you see on like the typical 405. But then this heel is different. This is not a Thomas heel, the ones that cut up that, but it's sort of the Thomas heel vibe. Because if you look at that, that's not like a accident, I would say. This isn't intentional. The other one's a mirror image. These come up quite a bit more where your arch is, and it does the same thing as the Thomas heel. The Thomas heel just kind of curves up and it looks, a little bit more significant, but this pushes your arch up. And in fact, if you look, this will be hard with the light. I'm doing a quick video tonight. I don't have the proper lighting, but if you look under there, they've built up a little extra layer there of probably, leather board to trigger rose anvil. It's significant. And honestly, if I look at it from the back, kind of underneath, it almost looks like the inner part of the heel is kind of coming down more. And I think that's because they're trying to really push up your arch. And then, as you can imagine, this one's the reverse, where, again, on the arch, on the inner side of your foot, this comes up, and they built it up, so it really pushes. It's kind of an interesting feel. I don't agree with what people are saying, that they say this has less arch support. This is significantly, like it pushes up my arches quite a bit more than my 2 pairs of 405s. Beyond that, it's cool because this is more anatomical, actually, I think, than that True Balance. But because the whole boot feels smaller, it doesn't feel as generous. So these are comfortable, but they're not as comfortable as my True Balance 4 or 5 pairs, also an 11.5D or BD. But the saving grace is this anatomical toe. So if you look at that, it has definitely some Munson vibes. Maybe that's why they call it the military last. It definitely curves. It's not like the typical, defective boot shape that so many boot and shoe manufacturers make, where, the toe curves inward. Nobody's foot is naturally shape pointed like that. Even if you have tight shoes that push your toes, like that's not how your foot's supposed to be. Your big toe, everything is more splayed, like a Birkenstock, and this is more of that shape if you look at it. So I think the fact that it's more anatomical is helping me out, because the drill, you watch my channel and my feet, but my big toes do not like to get pushed. What I find peculiar, though, is if I look at where my big toe, the tip of my big toe is, it's kind of like right here. So I have like at least a thumb, like a solid thumb space in front, which, is kind of the rule of thumb for the, so-called boot experts. You want a thumb's width in front of your foot. Well, I got that, but these still feel kind of tight. It's weird. And then the little toe is completely fine, which is kind of, again, more evidence that this is like a good size, because you wouldn't need to go too long if my little toe is kind of pushing the side, like it is on some of my loafers, kind of start to make you think, is that too short? My little toe is, falling in line and kind of it's falling in line here, not pushing out the side, and that's perfect. Big toe is kind of right there. It's not hitting, but it's touching the side. I took a picture of the footbed. Everything seems right. It's just, they're kind of just snug all around. I don't know if it was the Brogue shop site, maybe it was there, or someone else's website talking about sizing this 379X, is they are saying if you have wide feet or a high instep, you should go up from your Barry. But otherwise, go with your Barry size. Knowing that everybody says the Barry isn't quite as big and voluminous as the True Balance, I've always thought my Barry size must be an 11.5, but I don't own a pair. I say that because I kind of feel like I might be in between an 11 and 11.5 in the True Balance. I go with the 11.5 because that was what I bought first, and it's just perfect. It feels great. But knowing I could wear it with a boot sock, I would argue I might be able to pull off a True Balance and an 11 with a thin sock, but I don't want to bother even trying that because the 11.5 just feels great. These with the thin sock, it works, but it's tight. There's no way I could go boot sock in these. So I've always kind of thought maybe the Barry with 11.5 and a thin sock would probably be my size, but I've never actually tried one. So knowing that, I kind of figured that, plus I don't have wide feet. My toe splay is a different thing, but my foot width on a Brannock is not wide. And I don't have a high instep. I definitely have a normal instep. I know some guys in the boot community who fight with that, and some of them have similar, foot Brannock measurement to me, or the same, I should say. But they have a high instep, so they have different fit issues than me. But I kind of felt pretty confident in this, and I still do based off foot position, basically, in the boot. It's just a weird fit. So it's not immediate, like it's not a love at first fit or whatever. Like, the first time I put on my 405s when my first Alden, I was kind of stunned, like, wow, coming from like Allen Edmonds and stuff, I was like, these are like so much more comfortable, and they looked really cool. This doesn't have that. It's kind of like, wow, this is a little bit of a snug boot. But you know, I put them on and don't have toe pain, so I'm like, then that's a sign they're okay, right? Because that's always my issue. My issue is toe push. So I think these are good. I'm glad that they're tan. This is a tan suede. I'm glad that they're a suede because obviously it's softer. There is a toe structure, but you know, Aldens are not heavy duty work boots, so I would guess it will flex a little bit. So I'm hoping, being, you know, a dressier, softer boot, that they'll conform a little bit. And they aren't uncomfortable, they're just, you know, snugger, I guess. Maybe in the winter when it's cold and my feet aren't as swollen as they are, you know, when it's 100 and something here. It might also help, but we'll see. You know, worst case, they move on. Maybe Jimmy or someone would buy them. But for now, I'm happy. I like the way they look a lot. They look really cool. I like the pattern being different. I love how they have the typical super hard, super long Alden heel counters. You know, like these are literally stiffer than the heel counters in Nick's boots. I don't know if they're as durable. I can't remember if they use Celastic or plastic or something. I thought Rose Anvil said it was leatherboard, but whatever the hell this is, these heel cups, the same thing on my 405s. This is like a really hard heel cup. It's really solid, very supportive, versus even though they're like, you know, veg tan leather, whatever the heel counters that Nick's uses, you can still squeeze them more. Or who is it? Parkhurst. I like my Parkhurst, but their heel counters are like a joke. They're so soft, you could just squeeze, you could smash the heel of the boot. They have like no structure. The only thing close to is really heavy duty like this that I've experienced is Truman. Truman's heel counters are really solid, but I would almost say Alden is even more solid. These are like, they don't bend at all, like it's really stiff. But again, I don't know if it's something like a plasticky thing that could crack or something, but I've not had that problem on my 405s. They're lined, I should point that out, with like a cream color. I guess this is like a pigskin or kip or something. It's kind of like think of like women's makeup, the nude color they call it. It's kind of what the lining looks like. I guess it works with the tan, it makes sense. What's interesting is the combination of the suede plus the lining. They actually have kind of a thick quarter, especially up at the top where it has that one more layer for the shaft. Like, this is pretty beefy, to be honest. Not to say it's the whole boot's that way. They're pretty soft and nice. This boot, unfortunately, has the stereotypical Alden heel roll, tongue roll. You know, I try to keep pulling it back, but I don't know. There's something wrong with the way they're patterning or stitching their boots. That's basically everybody's Alden's tongues want to slide to the side. It's so stupid. And it's usually just one boot. This is my third pair of Alden boots, and each pair once, and I don't know, I have to think if it's always the left. Maybe it's something to do with my ankle or something. But they always have this heel roll, and you even see on, like, I think it's Shoe Mart or whatever, they have like Instagram shared pictures of their boots that, you know, customers have shared. And one of them shows a guy, I don't know if it's Dale from Dale's Leather, someone had a pair, and you could see his tongue is completely off, and he has like a higher instep, so the lace spread is big, and you could just see the dude's sock like sitting up right behind the lace. It's just ridiculous. They have to fix this. I don't know why they all have that problem. But anyway, I'm going to finish my hop water here. I don't know if you guys have had these hop waters. This flavor isn't very good. The standard one from Lagunitas is really good. But you should check out hop water. It's like a bubble water on steroids. Very tasty, very nice for a warm day or just in general. And I'm going to enjoy my Boondockers for as long as I can, assuming I don't just reject the fit at some point and decide I need to sell them. And by the way, I don't know what the story is with these laces. I don't think these came with them. Looking at the pictures on the site, it's hard to even tell. They're really dark, but this is seemingly the standard Alden lace that my other 405s came with. It might be a different supplier. Feels a little bit different, but they're nice, but they often shred with the defective Alden eyelets that have like exposed metal shards. This is not that. This feels more like a guarded goods, and it's like an olive color. My guess is the previous owner, I bought these off of eBay. Those were his buy, and he put them on here. I like the color, it looked cool, but they're thicker and waxier, and with these tiny little, you know, these, I don't know if these are Viberg tiny, but these are pretty small eyelets. Definitely smaller than the ones on my 405s, I think. It kind of made it problematic to pull these laces in and out. And then the waxiness just kind of makes them, they will break down over time. But anyway, I'm like, I'm not going to use those right now. So I just went with the brown ones. Oddly enough, I'll say the stitching on the Welt is ridiculously good for Alden. Like, I don't really see any, let's look at both of them close in the camera. I don't see any issues. That's actually kind of strange. I think I may have noticed that when I got them, but didn't pay too much attention. Obviously, you know, maybe they sanded this a little close, but it's consistently close, I guess. I mean, Aaron from Revival Shoe probably say I can't resole this because it's too tight, and he's right. But I don't know, Alden, I have a love-hate relationship with them. Their lasts are interesting. Their history's interesting. 1884, if you guys can't read that. Like, how many American shoe companies are still going since 1884? Not many. I think it's Alden. I think it's White's, and that could be the only ones from the 1800s that are still operating. I like their patterns. I like their comfort. You know, some more than others, I would say. Their loafers are super legit. I'm loving that pair that I bought from Aldwine. I don't love their prices. They're really high, and you know, people argue if it's worth it. I think they are still, but I'm kind of suffering the pain of the price because I'm trying to support the American worker and the history. But I do start to wonder how much of that $700 is a hype tax. And then their construction definitely has some misses. This is surprisingly kind of a perfection boot. Like, I don't see any issues with anything. I don't know if that's odd or it's a Brogue shop, maybe has a higher standard. Maybe they reject more. But this is really cool. And if you think about the fact that, and I've worn these already, but there was a little bit of wear on the corner of the heel, I think, here. And maybe a little bit there, but I mean, the guy said he wore them, but it's hard to tell that they've even been worn. He couldn't have worn them outside more than once or twice. And to get them for $350, you know, half off, at that price, they're a freaking steal. So if I could get Alden of this quality for $350 every time, I would not buy anything else. This boot at this quality and this comfort and this uniqueness and this history for this price is unbelievable. You know, forget all you, I don't care if I offend you guys with your Thursday crap. I mean, it's Chinese garbage. Okay, your Grantstones are Chinese and not garbage, but I'm still not interested in, you know, Communist Party country products and cheap labor. This is just legit, and at this price, it's ridiculous. So you probably heard the same spiel, I think, from Jimmy on Black Barn, and I'm sure who was Double Bass, I think, was talking about the same, maybe in the comments. Hopefully you guys have seen his channel too. He does a lot of boot videos. If you get a good deal on eBay, or if you see a good deal, it's hard to pass it up. I have a problem too, and that's why I have these, but I'm looking forward to them. Cheers, guys.